All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another market breakdown. It is Sunday, December 7th. We are 1 week into December, and let's start by going over um, our trades from last week. So we took two trades, one on GBP AUD and the other on GBP NZD. Now, GBP AUD, we kind of already did a full in-depth breakdown of this trade last week. So we'll go over it one more time this week as well. So let's go ahead and look at the confluences. First of all, weekly time frame is currently bullish, right? So we have this huge push to the upside and price has slowly been making lower lows. Now, last week or a few weeks before last week, we had broken underneath the EMA, pulled back, rejected the EMA, a daily area of interest as well, and sold. Now, we were able to enter the trade after this very, very aggressive bearish engulfing candle. We had a pullback retest of the trend line and then price sold. However, a day later, we had a very, very aggressive pullback, literally wicked us out by like 1 or 2 pips, and then price ended up selling. Um, I wasn't too happy with the way price was trading. At the current moment, price had gone bullish above this structure point. We basically sold, pulled back above this structure point right here, and price had shifted bullish. So I wasn't particularly pleased or interested in this position, although I did understand the fact that price could have been retesting this trend line on a daily time frame, which is exactly what it was doing. Um, Overall, I don't think that there's much we could do. My stop loss was already bigger than I wanted it to be. It was 50 points. I mean, we could have gone maybe 55. Let's see. Yeah, we would have had to go 60 points in order for price to basically not take us out of the trade. So it was a very, very aggressive pullback. Now, going back to um, going back to GBP NZD on the weekly time frame, this pair was bullish, right? So we had a push to the upside. We're above the weekly EMA, daily time frame. We were still bearish. We had a pullback and we basically had sold into this daily area of interest, and we had a very, very strong buying candle the day before. 4 hour time frame had gone bullish. It is currently bearish, I believe. Let me see. Um, Higher high. Yeah, so now it's currently bearish. Because we closed below this structure point. But when I was taking the trade, the 4 hour time frame was bullish, the daily or the weekly time frame was bullish, and the daily time frame had a very, very nice rejection to the upside. So two unfortunate trades. These were against each other. They're both GBP pairs, and then you have the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar, which are very, very closely related in terms of price action. But yeah, not a great way to start December. In terms of what I could have done differently on these trades, one, I guess on this one, I could have maybe re-entered after seeing price underneath the 4 hour EMA. We had the reaction to the downside. After this initial reaction, I probably wouldn't have entered. I probably would have waited for the secondary reaction, which was this one right here. And the best entry would have happened after this 4 hour bearish engulfing candle. Now, the issue with this is that the weekly time frame is bullish, and at that time, the 4 hour time frame was also bullish. So we were only trading with one time frame in sync. Whereas on GBP NZD, we had the weekly time frame was bullish, and the 4 hour time frame was bullish. So the confluences were kind of messed up in that sense, where here we were trading with two confluences, but we were underneath the 4 hour EMA. And here we were trading with one confluence on the re-entry of this trade, but we were trading underneath the 4-hour EMA. So I kind of messed up in that sense. Regardless, I think the idea was here. The execution was here, but we were unfortunately met with a very, very aggressive pullback, and that ended up taking us out of the trade. Now, normally I would trade this a lot more aggressively as well. Like I would have probably re-entered on this. This was what, Thursday? Yeah, I probably would have re-entered personally, but I just wasn't feeling that. And therefore I had just entered this trade instead. Now, I'm not sure if I ended up, let's see, if I ever ended up journaling this trade. No, I didn't. So let me go ahead and journal this one really quickly. Entry price, take profit 1 to 2, and stop loss was that. No screenshot. And then my time. This was on the 4th. So we took this on the 4th of December. All right. So yeah, right now we're currently down. Wait, was it the 4th or was it the 5th? December 4. Yeah, so it was on December 4. Maybe very, very late on December 5th. I can't remember. Yeah, it was basically at around midnight when I entered that. But as you can see, I literally sent the entry. Price bounced around for quite a while and then eventually tapped into where I had sent the entry and then just tanked immediately from there. So it is what it is on that. Let's go ahead and mark this down as a loss. And let's go ahead and move on. Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin doing? On the weekly time frame, we have this elbow, it looks like. We have a rejection candle on the weekly time frame. The daily time frame looks like it's creating like a double top pattern, but we do have this rejection candle right here, and it seems like we are creating bullish market structure internally, which could lead to this EMA here, after which we'll sell. So with two dojis at the bottom here, kind of reminds me of this type of a move, to where we might see some buyers re-entering this market. 4-hour time frame is kind of floating in and around the 4-hour EMA. If I was interested in trading this, I would look for I would basically just look for price to sell underneath this area right here. So you have this somewhat of an area of interest. You have some wicks, 1, 2, a bunch of structure points in here. I would basically look for a break and retest underneath this area. If price is going to do that, then I would look to take sells. If not, then I would just wait for the pullback into the EMA, as we spoke about earlier, and then look for price to do a proper break and retest under the 4-hour EMA in order to sell. All right. SPX weekly time frame closed with a doji. Here we closed with a kind of a bullish candle, almost like a doji as well. Just a little bit of a choppy move happening here. These types of moves remind me of like this type of a consolidation where we're moving upwards, but out of nowhere, we could see very, very aggressive retests of the EMA and then continuations to the upside. So that's something I would look out for. Looks like price wants to go up, but it's also struggling to do so. So if we see some aggressive sellers, then you could look for lower time frame entries to take buys. Yeah, so the daily time frame is bullish, the weekly time frame is bullish, and the 4-hour time frame is currently also bullish. So we're just creating higher highs. And at a certain point, well, 4-hour time frame looks to be, oh yeah, it is bullish. And at a certain point, we're going to see a very, very aggressive pullback, from which you may be able to enter a continuation to the upside on that. Moving on to gold. Um, Gold weekly time frame closed with a weekly doji candle. Now, from here, we could very, very easily be creating a double top in order to sell. But the last time we closed with a doji candle, rather, the last two times we closed with weekly doji candles, price opened and shot directly upwards. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but we do have to be aware of a potential move to the downside, considering how price looks to be struggling to push higher. If we will be looking for buys, I mean, I don't see why we shouldn't. We're still above the 4 hour EMA. If we do happen to kind of like, if we were to invert this chart, this right here kind of looks like this right here. If price does manage to close, I would say underneath this structure point, if we were to sell underneath this structure point right here, then we might be looking at a longer term move. Here it was to the upside, but here it would be to the downside. So if not, then I would look for basically price to start breaking and retesting above the EMA once again. And if we see that happening, then we could look to take buys on this pair. But yeah, it seems like we've been struggling here for a few days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, an entire week of price action right here. And we might just see a wick to the downside with a continuation to the upside, or a wick to the upside with a continuation to the downside. So gold is kind of at a crossroads. All right, so the dollar index has created structure to the downside. Like internally, this would be a higher high. This would be a shift of structure. At this point, we would just look for a pullback in order to sell. Daily time frame seems to be doing something similar to what we were expecting. Pull back into the EMA to sell, retesting the double top neckline. Yeah, that's basically everything that I have for this one. We're underneath the weekly EMA. We have a reaction to the downside. We've broken underneath the daily EMA. We have daily structures, and we're underneath the 4 hour EMA in order to pull back to sell even further. All right, now that we've gone over all of those, let's go ahead and create our analysis for this week. Starting with GBP AUD, we're kind of on the way to the downside. I could easily see price continuing to go to the downside. In terms of entries, we're pretty far. We're almost at a lower low point here on GBP AUD. So I'm personally not going to be interested. I don't want to rush into these. Like, I guess there is a head and shoulders right here. You could maybe catch a pullback into the EMA and to retest the neckline of this head and shoulders right here, like this. That seems pretty solid to me. You have a bunch of structure points. You'll have the EMA, and this would be creating that weekly wick to the upside, and then you'll get your bearish candle to the downside. So I do like that actually. So there might be potential re-entry on GBP AUD for sells. GBP NZD weekly time frame is definitely bullish, but we seem to be creating a weekly double top. We are at an area of interest here. We do have a weekly rejection candle. Daily time frame is bearish from here to here. We are underneath the daily EMA. We had a pullback rejection to the downside. 4 hour time frame is currently bearish. Same thing here. Realistically, I think we would change this to sells, where we have the daily and the 4 hour time frame in sync. You retested the EMA. At this point, I would look to retest the previous structures. You kind of have a double, triple top right here. Maybe on the lower time frames, you have a head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, retested the neckline. The neckline kind of looks like it was already retested with some of these wicks. But if price does decide to have that pullback into the 4-hour EMA, 2-hour EMA, that could be potential for sells. Do I want to take this one? Or do I want to take GBP AUD? They're probably both going to do something very similar. I would personally go with GBP AUD. I just like the way that the weekly time frame looks, and it seems to be we seem to have a weekly pullback, and now we are on the acceleration to the downside. Now, once again, if one of them sells very aggressively, they're both probably going to sell very aggressively. Okay. Let's move these to their sections. AUD NZD. AUD NZD weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. We're kind of on our way to the area we want to be in. 2 time frames in sync. Not really interested in this one. I think we're kind of halfway to where we want to be, or we're about to retest this double top on the daily time frame to potentially sell. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're looking at a move like this. So we're basically somewhere like right here inside of this move to the upside. So there could be a good potential for continuation to the upside. I don't see why this would be a bad trade necessarily. We have this move to the upside, and then the next week, I think that this week should give us just a proper continuation without any sort of real pullbacks. And if that's the case, let's see, 4-hour time frame is bearish, but we also have 2-hour or 4-hour double bottom here. Push up, retest. Price is trading above the 30-minute EMA, pretty solid. Same as we did here. Basically, just stay above the 30-minute EMA and continue to climb. If there's any like really aggressive pullbacks, like you can see here, we broke underneath the 30-minute EMA. As soon as you break back above, retest that 30-minute EMA and engulf. You should just be able to take a trade stop loss underneath the 30-minute EMA and catch that continuation, kind of like we did right here, where we're above, then we break below, then we break above, retest buy. Seems to be a pretty solid move there. So if we were to even enter the trade, let's call it above this structure point, stop loss would go under this double bottom right here. And then you would just target daily structure or even this daily structure up here. That's a pretty solid 1 to 3 risk to reward. So is this one that I would take? Probably. I would consider taking buys on AUD NZD. This one is a little bit riskier since there's not much structure to follow. We're kind of just 4-hour. We're also kind of waiting for a 4-hour pullback into the EMA. So this here, how do I explain it? Let's see. This pullback or this sell could either be this sell or it could be this one right here. Right now, we're kind of just climbing up above the EMA for the first time without any sort of resistance. As soon as we pull back and then we have an engulfing, that could be a pretty solid place to take this trade. So if we have a couple selling candles, price slows down, engulfs at that point, that would be a good place to take the trade. And then 4-hour time frame just holds price above it for quite a while. So yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on this one. And I will be keeping an eye on this one for this week to see how it moves. All right, moving on. USD CAD weekly time frame is broken through this trend line. Weekly time frame is bearish. Daily time frame has broken, retested the EMA, retested the double top neckline. So we broke underneath, we retested, sold. At this point, I think the trade's kind of gone. We're just waiting for a weekly pullback in order to sell. Weekly and daily pullback basically into the EMA, into the previous structure in order to sell. So right now, we are not interested. EuroCAD weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bearish. Same exact thing as USD CAD. We're basically looking for the daily pullback to sell, daily lower high for the next lower low. NZD CAD, this one looks a little bit better in my opinion. Weekly time frame has had the pullback into the previous structure. Weekly rejection, that's the previous structure. You have your weekly rejection candle. Daily time frame has had a shift of structure. So we had the higher high, higher low, higher high, shift of structure. So now we have the lower low, waiting for the lower high, retest of the previous structure here. 4-hour time frame, same thing. We're above the EMA, now we're below the EMA. We have the lower low on the 4-hour time frame. Now we're just waiting for the lower high and then the sell. So this is probably one that I will keep my eye on. Looks very, very clean to me. 4-hour time frame, weekly time frame, rejection, daily time frame, shift of structure, 4-hour time frame, shift of EMA, retest the neckline to sell. Not bad. EuroCAD, we already talked about this one. Euro NZD weekly time frame looks like it's about to shift bearish. Daily time frame has already shifted under the EMA. Now we kind of have somewhat of a trend line. I don't really like these types of trend lines. They make no sense to me. Just not much clean structure on this one. It probably will continue to sell considering we broke underneath the EMA, retested, sell, or we might do something like this where we're selling and then we retest, sell only to break back above to buy. Not interested. Weekly time frame here is bullish. Daily time frame has broken above the EMA. Looks like we are pulling back to retest the EMA, maybe previous structure such as this double bottom neckline right here. Daily EMA usually holds price pretty well on these types of pairs. Here we are above, here we are below, now we're back above. 4-hour time frame, same thing, retesting the EMA. As long as price can stay above the daily and above the 4-hour EMAs, I would expect to see price continuing to buy on Euro USD. So we will be looking for buys on Euro USD. Personally, not a huge fan, but like, I guess, let's see. Weekly time frame, bullish. Daily time frame, bullish. 4-hour time frame, bearish. So the 4-hour time frame has gone bearish. That's one thing, I guess, to consider. And so right now we're looking for buys, right? We're looking for buys technically. But if price does manage to break underneath the 4-hour EMA, like we already talked about this, like if it does something like this where it breaks underneath, retests and sells, then I will be looking for sells, even though it is a counter trend trade. But as of right now, we should continue to see some buys. Do I want to take the trade? I'll keep an eye on this one, but probably not today. We might come back to it tomorrow and have a different opinion of it. AUD CAD weekly time frame, a very, very strong rejection here on the weekly time frame. It is bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. Very, very strong bearish rejection candle. 4-hour time frame has shifted bearish. We haven't seen any kind of rejection off of the 4-hour EMA. So there's a chance we might shift back underneath the 4-hour EMA, shift back underneath this kind of a trend line looking thing. Not a huge fan. unless we get like a bullish engulfing candle here. I don't know. It's pretty choppy. Like we're having this is what it reminds me. Like this right here reminds me of this right here, and this rejection candle reminds me of this rejection candle. So what happened after this rejection candle? Price sold very aggressively, basically retesting the bottom of whatever trend line was holding this up, and then eventually it continued to buy. So yeah, it looks like we might sell into the daily EMA, maybe even below the daily EMA, 4 hour time frame. Yeah, here too, 4 hour time frame kind of looked like it went bearish, and then eventually it shifted back above the EMA and continued to go bullish. So that's what I would look for. Is I would look for a proper break and retest above the EMA on the 4 hour time frame. If price does sell below, I would look for a break and retest like this once price is back above this EMA. And then this would be where you want to enter the trade. And then you know where you're going to put your stop loss, which would be right underneath the EMA. Not interested right now. Euro AUD weekly time frame is nearing the weekly EMA. It is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish underneath this daily head and shoulders pattern. At this point, I would look for a pullback on the daily time frame in order to sell. Pullback would basically retest 4 hour EMA and also the daily area of interest. This is in terms of structure, it has a very, very clean area of interest. So this is one that I would be interested in watching. Euro AUD. Yes. So Euro AUD and GBP AUD also have very, very similar market structure. Euro NZD is probably going to give us the same thing. Do I even have Euro NZD on here? Yeah, I do. Okay. Euro CAD, Euro NZD. Yeah, we already talked about this one. Um, Probably going to sell, but just not a huge fan of the way it looks in terms of market structure. We talked about this. We talked about this. We haven't gone over this. NZD USD. NZD USD had another bullish week. Now the bullish time frame has gone, or no, the weekly time frame has gone bullish. Daily time frame is above the EMA, also bullish at the current moment. 4 hour time frame, also currently bullish. So no reason to be selling this unless we get like a super nice bearish rejection candle, doji, or engulfing to the downside. We do have a very, very strong area of resistance here from which we might be able to sell. But as of right now, I would just be careful and stay out of this one. But yeah, as of right now, buyers would be the best option, or buys would be the best option above this area of interest. So you just wait for a break, retest to buy. If not, then we're waiting for price to sell underneath the EMA, similar to the way it did here. In fact, the market structure kind of looks the same. If we were to ignore this very aggressive buy and we're just focusing on this slow pullback, the slow pullbacks look kind of similar. And if we do get like a very, very aggressive buy here and then a shift underneath the area of interest, we could get a shift to the downside underneath the EMA and continuation to sell. So we will keep our eyes open for both options. Ideally, we would just get a bearish engulfing daily candle and then a shift underneath retest of the 4 hour EMA. If not, then what we're looking for is just a bullish candle to the upside, slow pullback to the downside. Kind of like the same thing like this, where these would be the buys and then these would be the sells, and then these would be the buys. So inverted, a very, very quick buy, very, very slow and painful pullback. And then we would know for sure that as soon as price gives us a move to the, in our case, the upside, we will just take off to the upside. Okay, so right now we're also at the crossroads, unsure of whether we're buying or selling. The smartest thing to do in these situations is just stay away until we have more information to work with. Euro GBP weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, so we have a new lower low. At this point, we have market structure creating a head and shoulders pattern. 4-hour time frame is definitely underneath the EMA. It would only make sense to sell this type of market, but we would need more market structure, in my opinion. Maybe a better break and retest underneath the EMA. Weekly, daily. Monthly rejection candle, daily, weekly, daily. This one's a bit difficult to trade, in my opinion, unless we get a proper retest of the daily EMA and previous structure, after which we might be able to sell. So it's either a very, very aggressive sell, retest, sell, or just a very, very slow pullback to retest and then very aggressive sell. So it is one or the other, but for right now, I'm going to stay away. GBP USD weekly time frame is bullish above the EMA. So we had a push, we have a retest of the EMA with the daily time frame, and then we have another very, very aggressive push to the upside. So we are starting to climb back upwards. At the current moment, this is going to look very similar to NZD USD. We're looking for a pullback to buy or a push pullback to buy on GBP USD. Or we might see the, if we do see a reaction from all of these areas of support resistance, then we might see price sell underneath the EMA. And then we might see the break underneath, retest, head and shoulders to sell. So a couple options for us. But for right now, the best option is buy. Okay, so AUD USD waiting. So last week we had a very, very aggressive buy. Daily time frame is very far from structure or from previous structure. So we have to build a new area of interest, which would probably be this one right here. So you have two options, either a pullback all the way down to here, or just a shorter pullback into these previous structures, area of interest, in order to buy. Not a bad option. It's just, I feel like the EMA is a little bit far away from price at the moment. I haven't seen price climb up the 1 hour EMA that nicely in a while. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on this one. I don't hate it. This is probably one of the cleaner USD pairs at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on that one. We already went over GBP USD. Also not a terrible option, honestly, for buys. But USD pairs. Daily. Kind of need a daily pullback. We need a very, very deep daily pullback, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about the USD pairs for now. I'm just gonna let them have their daily pullbacks or their reversals, whatever they're gonna do. I'm just gonna stay away from them. What do we have here? A new weekly lower low on Yeah, so we have a new weekly lower low on GBP CAD. So this is our lower low or lower high, lower low. Still within this like crazy little trend line, whatever this is called, channel. Daily time frame is bearish. Oops. Daily time frame is bearish, weekly time frame is bearish, and 4-hour time frame is also bearish. Not interested in all of this choppiness. Now, it does remind me like what's happening right here reminds me of the way that price has been trading up here, where we're not allowed to go any higher than this. And we're also kind of constricted by the EMA. And eventually price does find a way to reverse. The way the weekly time frame looks. Yeah, we're just stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. So I'm not interested. Weekly time frame on the JPY pairs. We had a weekly pullback, weekly doji, the start of a weekly pullback with a weekly doji, push higher, weekly pullback, and yeah, so for right now, this does look nice on USD JPY. USD JPY. Out of all of these, USD JPY looks the cleanest. CHF JPY is in second place on the daily time frame. I would say it's a battle between these two for buys. Weekly time frame is bullish. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. Here, daily time frame is bearish. And then 4-hour time frame. I don't even have my little 4-hour time frame is currently bearish as well. And then here, 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. So I would look for a break and retest above the EMA in order to take buys on USD JPY. That's probably going to be the one JPY pair I am maybe interested in trading. Just because we're in the middle of a weekly pullback. That is one thing to kind of note. 4-hour time frame, we're above. Okay, yeah. So we're underneath the 4-hour EMA. We do need to see price break above that 4-hour EMA. If we can't see it break and retest, create like a double bottom right here. So this is your double bottom, retest, push above, retest, and then break back above the EMA, then I would stay away from this one. But for right now, I would consider looking to take buys if price manages to do what we want it to do. And that's simply because I like the way that this daily candle has rejected our area of interest, which is previous structure, and also the EMA. Kind of reminds me of this right here, this daily rejection candle, and then from there on out, price continued to push higher. Out of the JPY pairs, that's all I'm really looking at. This is another example of the same thing. You have your previous structure, you have your daily EMA. 4-hour time frame just needs to kind of break above, retest, and then buy above the structure points, which are right here. And we need to confirm that the 4-hour time frame is not going to be held back by anything. And if it is, then we could very easily see price continuing to sell. Okay. CHF pairs. Let's run through these really quickly. Looks like we are having a weekly continuation on most of these pairs. We have daily or weekly time frame pushed higher. We had a pullback, and then we had this rejection candle. It's like a weekly, almost like a weekly higher low for the next higher high. Daily time frame above the EMA, pull back into the EMA, rejection. 4-hour time frame is now, this is exactly what I'm talking about on the USD pairs. We were underneath, right? We're underneath. We break above, retest, buy. After this engulfing candle, this is where you're looking to take your buys. You can kind of compare them. We're underneath, we break above, retest buy, same exact thing. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for. On USD CHF, weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, but the 4-hour time frame is now bullish. Okay, so as of right now, we're kind of looking for a higher low to create the next higher high, to have that weekly and daily continuation to the upside. Euro CHF, we're at a resistance level here with the EMA. Here we have the EMA as well. CAD CHF doesn't really have an EMA, but it does have these previous structures and wicks. Previous structures and like somewhat of an area of interest. So these ones are like, I can see them all having a continuation to the upside, but you have to think about every level that it has to break through in order to reach your take profit. So for a lot of these, like, you're going to have to do a lot of breaking through. All right. So as of right now, let's see. USD. Like this one, the reason I like it so much is because it has, you found your bottom and you don't really have to break through much. Like you have so much empty space to just continue to go higher. And we're also at a level of reversal in some way or another. So we're kind of just looking for price to take off from here. Weekly, monthly time frame. Had a push, had a pullback. Weekly time frame had a shift to structure. So we shifted bearish, then we shifted bullish, had the pullback, had the rejection. Daily time frame above the EMA, had the pullback, had the rejection. 4-hour time frame above the EMA, which is looking for a pullback and a continuation. So I would probably go with USD CHF for buys. Obviously, if we shift back below the EMA, chances of price going in our direction are lower, but we're willing to pay attention and see what price is telling us. Now, depending on how patient you want to be, you could wait for, a daily pullback into previous structure on some of these pairs here. So you have this right there, daily pullback. You could maybe create a new area of interest for some of these. These are also very choppy, so you are stuck wondering. Let's see. So you could create a new weekly area of interest somewhat around this area here. You have 1, 2, 3, 3 structure points, 3 and a bunch of wicks. So pull back to buy, but you're buying into the weekly EMA. That's the only issue that I'm seeing. If we were maybe up here and then we had a pullback, then that would be a completely different story, Weekly, daily. I guess we could see maybe a daily pullback here. We're above the EMA to buy. We're already above the EMA. And you can maybe look for your daily pullback into the previous structure, into the EMA. So it would be right here. You have your 1, 2, 3 structure points to buy. Not a terrible option for right there. So maybe NZD CHF, you could see a daily pullback / a 4-hour pullback into previous structure, into the EMA to buy. But all of these CHF pairs should move in a pretty similar manner. So yeah, I'm going to use USD CHF for now, and then we will see what happens with that tomorrow and the rest of the week. So let's go through what we're looking at. This will be a 4-hour daily pullback to sell. Yeah, that's pretty solid. This would be a daily 4-hour pullback. Daily 4-hour pullback to sell. 4 hour break and retest above the EMA. So now we're just waiting for the 4 hour retest of EMA. So it's 4 hour pullback to sell. AUD, NZD, NZD. Why am I typing NZD CAD? Here, same thing, 4 hour pullback to sell. Now you have to understand that at the beginning of the week, you're not only creating your daily wick and you're not only having a 4 hour pullback, but that 4 hour pullback acts as your weekly wick. So you're expecting price to sell for the rest of the week off of that wick. So it has to be a good rejection and it has to be a solid area of interest, or else price might give you a reaction. Like this might be your pullback and you'll get your reaction, but then later on in the week, you actually get a deeper pullback, which takes you out of the trade and then pushes you further. So that's kind of what happened with GBP AUD. I had my initial pullback, my initial reaction, and then I had a deeper pullback that took me out. Technically, I think I could have entered a little bit earlier. Like this was Friday, Sunday, Monday. I could have entered like on Monday somewhere around here, and then my stop loss would have been placed above the weekly wick, which would have been this wick right here, which is created on Sunday, right? So that would have been the ideal place to put my stop loss. Since I entered a little bit later, my stop loss could not be in that place without ruining my risk to reward overall. Yeah, so 4 hour pullback to sell, 4 hour pullback to sell, 4 hour retest of the EMA to buy, pullback, pullback, pullback to sell on NZD CAD, USD, JPY break and retest, USD CHF pullback. So this would be 4 hour break and retest to buy. All right, that is basically it for this Sunday breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back tomorrow for the rest of the breakdowns or tomorrow's breakdown. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.